The year was 1943, deep in the countryside of California. At the end of a dusty road stood a two-story farmhouse owned by Samuel Mullins, a skilled doll maker whose hands could bring life to wood and porcelain. His workshop smelled of varnish, sawdust, and time, a place where every doll had a soul, or so his daughter Bee would say. Bee, short for Annabelle Mullins, was a bright child, full of laughter that could fill the quiet corners of their home. She was Samuel's favorite companion, always peeking into his workshop, watching as her father painted delicate eyes onto blank faces. "Do they see, Papa?" she'd ask, pointing at a newly finished doll. Samuel would smile softly. "Only what we choose to show them, sweetheart." But that smile would soon vanish from his face. One Sunday morning, tragedy struck. The church bells were ringing when Bee ran into the road to fetch a loose screw from her father's toolbox. A car came speeding down the hill. There was no time to shout, no time to save her. Only the sound of metal, wood, and a scream that seemed to echo forever. The world went silent. Samuel and his wife Esther buried their daughter beneath the old oak tree behind their house. But Samuel could not let go. For nights, he locked himself in his workshop, hammering, painting, carving, trying to fill the emptiness that consumed their home. Esther would hear him whispering Bee's name as if speaking to someone unseen. Then one night the whispers changed. Esther awoke to the faint sound of a music box, Bee's favorite tune. She followed it to the workshop door, trembling. Through the crack, she saw something that froze her blood. Samuel kneeling in front of one of his new creations, a doll, unfinished but eerily familiar, with Bee's eyes painted onto its porcelain face. He was crying, begging, "Just one more chance, Lord. Bring her back to me." Then came the sound, a faint giggle, a child's laugh, distant yet clear, echoing through the workshop. Esther's breath caught. She pushed open the door. The doll's head turned, slowly, deliberately. Its glass eyes gleamed in the lamplight, and from somewhere deep inside that hollow chest came a whisper. "Mama!" Esther screamed. The next morning, Samuel told her it was just her imagination, but she knew what she heard. And that night, she locked the workshop door herself. But it was already too late. Something had answered Samuel's prayer, and it didn't come alone. For a while, the house stayed quiet. Samuel locked away the doll inside a chest, sealing it with the same nails he once used to build Bee's cradle. He stopped working, stopped smiling. Esther, still trembling from what she'd witnessed, prayed every night for forgiveness, though she wasn't sure for what. For doubting God, for her husband's obsession, or for something far worse, something she felt in the shadows of that workshop. Days turned into weeks, and yet the house seemed alive again. The air carried a faint laughter, doors creaked open by themselves, and Bee's old ball rolled down the hallway at night, stopping just before Esther's feet. She tried to tell Samuel, but he refused to listen. "It's just grief, Esther. The mind plays tricks." But one evening, while fixing the roof, Samuel found something strange. A child's handprint, pressed on the inside of the attic window. Bee's room had been locked since her death. That night, he heard the same giggle again, this time louder, clearer, coming from the workshop. He opened the door slowly. The chest where he'd hidden the doll was open. The lid creaked, nails bent upward like something had forced its way out. The doll sat on his workbench, facing the wall, its head slightly tilted as if listening, and beside it, the missing page from his prayer book, the one he'd used the night he begged for Bee's return. Only one phrase was written in ink: "She is here." Samuel stepped back, heart pounding. "Bee?" a small voice answered. "Papa." He froze. The voice was exactly the same, innocent, warm, familiar. He turned slowly, eyes trembling with tears. The doll's lips didn't move, but the voice came from somewhere around it. "You wanted me back, Papa. Don't you love me anymore?" Samuel's knees weakened. "You're not her," he whispered. "You're not my daughter." The workshop light flickered. The air grew heavy, suffocating. Then, in one violent motion, the doll fell from the table, its porcelain face cracking against the floor. But before Samuel could react, the pieces of the face began to twitch, as if something underneath was trying to break free. A low growl echoed from inside the hollow shell. He backed away, stumbling into the wall, clutching his chest. God help us. From the floor, the doll turned its cracked face upward, and a thin smile formed. Too wide, too human. He's not listening. A single light bulb bursts. Darkness. The music box plays by itself, slow and distorted. That night, Esther awoke to find her husband kneeling in the living room, rosary clutched tight, eyes wide open. He never spoke of what he saw again. But from that night on, the doll was no longer silent. It moved when no one watched. It listened, and it waited. It had been 12 years since the death of B. Mullins. The house, once filled with laughter, stood like a hollow carcass, wooden beams cracked by time, wallpaper peeling like dead skin. Samuel and Esther grew old in silence. The doll remained locked in a small room, the one that used to be B's nursery. They called it the Forbidden Room. No one was allowed to enter. But evil has patience. It waits, it whispers, and sometimes it knocks. One rainy evening, just past midnight, the sound of gentle tapping echoed through the empty halls. Samuel stirred awake. 3 soft knocks, coming from the front door. He hesitated. No one visited them anymore. Still, he went down the creaking stairs, each step echoing through the hollow house. He opened the door slowly. Standing there, soaked in rain, was a nun. Her face was pale, her eyes kind but tired. "Forgive me for disturbing you," she said softly. "Our car broke down on the road. We seek shelter until morning." Behind her stood 6 orphaned girls and another nun, young, fragile, clutching their small bags and rosaries. Samuel nodded. "You can stay for the night." He didn't ask how they found his house. He didn't want to know. By dawn, the orphans were settled. Their laughter, light and innocent, echoed through the walls, like ghosts awakening memories long buried. Esther, now wheelchair-bound, smiled faintly for the first time in years. Maybe, just maybe, God was giving them a chance to heal. But healing does not come easily when the past is still alive. That evening, one of the girls, Janice, a quiet child who walked with a brace, wandered through the hallways, curious about the old house. She stopped before a door, B's nursery, the forbidden room. A note was nailed to it. "Do not open." Janice pressed her ear against the door. Inside, she heard it, the faint sound of a music box, turning slowly, playing B's lullaby. "You are my sunshine, my only sunshine." She knocked. No answer. She tried the handle. Locked. But then, click. It opened by itself. Janice stepped in. The air was cold, thick, unmoving. Dust floated like snow under the beam of her lantern. In the center of the room was a small wardrobe, draped in white cloth. Something about it drew her closer. She reached for the cloth and pulled it away. Inside sat the doll, cracked, pale, with one eye missing. Its smile seemed alive. Janice stepped back. Her lantern flickered. Then, the wardrobe door slammed shut by itself. She froze, heart pounding, and whispered, "Who's there?" Silence. Then, from behind her, "Don't play in here." She spun around. No one. The door creaked open again, slowly. The doll was no longer in the wardrobe. Janice screamed. The others came running. But when they entered the room, the doll was back in its place, perfectly still. Esther trembled when she saw it. "No," she whispered. "It's awake again." That night, Sister Charlotte, the older nun, prayed alone in the chapel. The candles flickered. She could feel something watching her. She lifted her head and saw it, a small shadow crawling across the far wall. It wasn't human. It was child-sized, but it moved like liquid darkness. Then, from the shadows, came a soft whisper, "Mother." Sister Charlotte's breath quickened. "Who's there?" The voice giggled. "You brought them here, for me." The candles blew out, and from the darkness came the slow creak of the nursery door opening upstairs. Samuel woke from his sleep, gasping. his ears ringing with the sound of the same old lullaby. He ran to the workshop, and there it was again. The music box, spinning on its own. Next to it, Bia's small shoe, covered in dust, lying beside fresh footprints leading toward the forbidden room. He shouted, "Leave my family alone!" But the reply was not human. A voice, deeper than a child's, echoed from the shadows. "You made me, Samuel. Now you're mine." The next morning, Janice wouldn't speak. She just sat by the window, staring at the doll through the cracked nursery door. And the doll stared back. The days passed like fading dreams. The orphans tried to fill the house with laughter, but something was off. Every smile ended in silence. Every corner seemed to watch them back. Janice, once shy but curious, grew pale and quiet. She refused to sleep at night. Sister Charlotte thought it was just fear of the new place, until she saw the bruises. 3 dark marks on Janice's arm, finger-shaped. When asked what happened, the girl only said, "Someone was holding me. She wanted to play." Charlotte tried to comfort her. "There's no one here but us." Janice looked up, her eyes trembling. "Then why does she whisper my name when I'm alone?" That evening, the nuns gathered everyone for prayer. Esther Mullins stayed in her room, too weak to join. She stared at the crucifix on her wall, the one that had begun to tilt just slightly, as if the house itself rejected it. A soft knock came at her door. "Come in," she said weakly. The door creaked open. No one entered, just the faint sound of small footsteps and the slow roll of a toy ball across the floor. Esther's heart froze. The ball stopped at her feet. Then came the whisper, so close to her ear it chilled her bones. "Mama," she screamed. Samuel rushed in moments later, but the room was empty. The ball was gone, and on the wall behind her bed, written in tiny childlike letters, were the words, "Let me in." Meanwhile, upstairs, Janice couldn't sleep. The whispering had grown louder. It wasn't just one voice now. It was 2. One sounded like a little girl. The other, deeper, older, almost inhuman. She sat on her bed, clutching her rosary, when she heard it. Creak, creak, creak. The rocking cradle in the corner of her room was moving. Slowly, gently, as if something unseen was cradling a child that wasn't there. She whispered, "Who are you?" No reply, only the cradle rocking. Then she noticed a doll's hand sticking out from beneath it. The Annabelle doll. She froze. "I didn't bring you here." The cradle stopped. Then, the doll's head turned toward her, one eye missing, the other glinting in the moonlight. Janice gasped, stumbling back. The rosary slipped from her hand, beads scattering across the wooden floor. The doll rolled toward her, slowly without being touched, as if dragged by something unseen. "Play with me, Janice," she screamed. The door slammed shut. The lamp burst, plunging the room into darkness. Something moved, crawling, dragging across the floorboards toward her. She could hear the sound of fingernails scratching the wood. "You opened my room," she cried out. "Sister Charlotte, help!" Charlotte rushed to the door, trying to open it, but it wouldn't budge. Inside, Janice's screams filled the hall, then silence. The door swung open on its own. Charlotte rushed in, but Janice was gone. Only the doll sat in the center of the room, staring at her, its cracked smile wider than before. Hours later, Samuel found Janice in the barn, unconscious, lying in the hay. When she woke, she didn't remember how she got there. But her voice was different, colder, deeper. When Sister Charlotte tried to speak to her, Janice only smiled and said, "It's better now. She's inside me." Charlotte frowned. "Who?" "B." The air turned cold, the candles flickered, and from the corner of the room, the doll began to rock by itself, back and forth, as if it were laughing. That night, Sister Charlotte prayed harder than ever, but as she knelt, the crucifix fell from the wall with a loud clang. The flame of every candle went out, and a whisper brushed her ear. "God can't hear you here." For days, Janice wouldn't speak. She only watched, From the corner of her bed, from behind doorways, from the dark. The other girls avoided her. Her smile wasn't the same. Once innocent and shy, her eyes now looked empty, like someone else was peering through them. Sister Charlotte began to sense it, the change in the house. Crucifixes twisted upside down overnight. The holy water turned murky, and a smell of iron and sulfur lingered in the air. During dinner one evening, she asked gently, "Janice, how are you feeling?" The girl looked up slowly. "I feel whole." "Do you still hear the voice?" Janice tilted her head, smiling faintly. "She's not a voice anymore. She's my friend." The room fell silent. Even the wind outside stopped. "She says I can walk now." And before anyone could speak, Janice stood up, the brace on her leg creaking, and walked. Perfectly, effortlessly, gasps filled the room. Charlotte's eyes widened. "Janice, how? Bea helped me." Janice smiled, but it wasn't her smile. It was wide, stretched, unnatural. That night, Samuel heard something in the barn again. Soft singing, a child's lullaby. He grabbed his lantern and went out into the dark. The wind howled through the old boards as the light flickered. There, sitting on the hay, was Janice, humming softly, cradling the Annabelle doll in her arms. "You are my sunshine, my only sunshine." He stepped closer. "Janice, what are you doing here?" She didn't look up. Instead, she whispered, "She wanted to see you, Papa." Samuel froze. "Don't call me that." Janice's voice deepened. "But I'm your little girl, remember? You wanted me back." The lantern dimmed. Janice's head slowly tilted upward, her eyes black as night. "You prayed for me, and something answered." The doll in her arms twitched. Then its head turned, crack, facing Samuel. He stumbled backward. The barn doors slammed shut. He screamed, "In the name of God." The voice interrupted, deep, guttural. "He doesn't live here anymore." A gust of cold air blew out the lantern, and in that darkness, Samuel's scream tore through the night. When Sister Charlotte found him hours later, he was lying face down in the hay, lifeless, his eyes wide open, a rosary clenched in his hand. And beside him, the doll, smiling. The next morning, the orphans prepared to leave, but Janice refused. She stayed by the window, humming softly, her shadow moving just a second after her body did. Sister Charlotte confronted her. "Janice, what happened in that barn?" "He met her," Janice whispered. "She's free now." "Who's free?" "Bea." Charlotte felt her blood run cold. The doll was gone from the barn. "Where is she, Janice?" "Inside," the girl said, pointing at her chest. "We're one now." Charlotte grabbed her rosary and began to pray aloud, her voice trembling. "Deliver us from evil," Janice screamed, covering her ears, her voice turning guttural. "Stop! You'll wake her." The windows shattered. The lights burst. The walls shook as if the whole house was alive, breathing, then silence. When Charlotte opened her eyes, Janice was gone. Only the doll remained on the floor, sitting upright, staring at the broken crucifix on the wall. Later that night, Esther, confined to her wheelchair, saw her reflection in the mirror, but it wasn't her face staring back. It was Janice, smiling. The morning after Samuel's death was unnaturally quiet. The air was heavy, thick like smoke after a fire. Even the birds had stopped singing. Sister Charlotte gathered the girls in the living room. Their faces were pale, eyes filled with fear. One of them whispered, "Where's Janice?" Charlotte hesitated. Janice's bed was empty, her shoes missing. But deep down, the nun already knew. Janice was still here, somewhere inside the house. She checked every room, each one colder than the last. She could feel something watching from the walls, a presence that breathed without lungs, whispered without a mouth. When she reached Bea's old nursery, the door was wide open, and inside, the Annabelle doll sat upright in the rocking chair, perfectly still, facing the cradle. Charlotte's breath hitched. "In the name of the Lord." Before she could finish her prayer, the chair began to rock on its own, faster, louder, creaking like bones snapping under weight. The doll fell forward onto the floor. Its porcelain face cracked again, and something black leaked from its eyes. Charlotte stepped closer, whispering a prayer. Then the cradle beside her began to move, back and forth, rocking empty air. She grabbed the blanket, lifted it, and screamed. Inside was nothing but a bundle of human teeth bound together with string. The lights flickered. The door slammed shut behind her, and from the darkness came the faint sound of a child's voice. "Mama says you shouldn't look inside my bed." Charlotte ran, clutching her cross. When she reached the hall, all the doors began slamming, one by one. Bang, bang, bang. The paintings on the wall bled black oil, and in the reflection of the hallway mirror, she saw them. Children, dozens of them, standing still in the dark, their faces blank like dolls. Then she saw Janice, standing at the far end of the corridor. Her head tilted, her eyes dark. "Sister," Janice whispered, "she wants you to stay." Charlotte stepped back. "You're not Janice." The girl smiled. "She likes it when you say her name." "Annabelle?" The lights exploded. For a split second, Charlotte saw it. The thing inside Janice, a black shape twisting like smoke, eyes glowing beneath her skin, lips stretched into an impossible grin. The voice that came out of her wasn't human. "You gave her a home, and now she'll never leave." Meanwhile, the other girls huddled together in the kitchen, praying under the candlelight. But one of them, little Nancy, began to hum. The others turned to her. "Nancy, why are you humming?" She didn't answer. Her eyes rolled upward. And then, in a child's voice that wasn't hers, she whispered, "She's here." Every candle in the room went out. The girls screamed as a figure appeared in the doorway, small, frail, wearing Bee's old dress. But it wasn't Bee. It wasn't even Janice anymore. The thing's head jerked unnaturally, neck cracking with each tilt. Its voice shifted between a child's tone and a demon's snarl. "You took my family away. Now I'll make this house my family." The windows shattered inward, wind swirling with dust and whispers. The floorboards groaned like they were about to break open. Charlotte burst into the room, holding her rosary high. "Leave these children in the name of Jesus Christ!" The entity screamed, a sound like 1,000 voices weeping. The house trembled, then silence. When the dust settled, Janice was gone. The doll was gone. Only the faint echo of a lullaby remained. "You are my sunshine, my only sunshine." For the next 3 days, the house remained eerily still. No one slept. No one spoke of Janice. But deep beneath the floorboards, something scratched. Slowly, patiently, waiting. 3 nights have passed. The children barely sleep. Sister Charlotte moves through the house clutching her rosary, her voice hoarse from endless prayer. But the walls, they whisper back. At first it was faint, a small murmur behind the plaster, like someone softly crying. But as the hours dragged on, the whispers became words, then voices. The girls began to hear their names being called. Nancy, Kate, Linda. Every time it was the voice of someone they loved, a mother, a father, a friend, luring them closer to the walls. One night, Linda, the youngest, couldn't take it anymore. She crept out of bed, candle in hand, following the sound of her mother's voice. "Sweetheart, open the door, I'm here." The voice came from behind the nursery wall, the same room where Annabelle used to sit. Linda's small hands pressed against the wallpaper. "Mama," the voice grew warmer. "Yes, my love. Push the wall, I'm waiting for you." She pushed once, nothing. She pushed again, harder, until the plaster cracked slightly under her palm. And from inside the wall came a small knock. Knock, knock. Then a whisper. Almost out. The candle flickered violently. Linda's eyes widened, and through the crack, a single finger slid out. Small, porcelain, tapping against her hand. She screamed. Charlotte and the others came running. They found Linda trembling. the wall bleeding with black ooze from the crack. Charlotte pressed her hand over it, whispering a prayer. But before she could finish, the whispering voices began again, louder now, coming from every direction. "Let us in. She's waiting. Annabelle." The floors started to buckle. Paintings fell from the walls, and from the ceiling, thick black mold began to spread, forming the faint shape of a woman's face. Charlotte screamed at the girls to run. But no matter which door they opened, they all led to the same room, the nursery. The doll sat in the corner again, smiling. Janice stood beside it, her dress torn, eyes blank and gray. She lifted her hand and pointed at Charlotte. "You can't leave. She lives here now." Charlotte held her cross high. "You are not her. Release this house." Janice's mouth opened, too wide, stretching unnaturally until it tore at the sides. A voice thundered through her body, deep, layered, ancient. "We are bound to her blood, to his prayer, to your faith." The crucifix in Charlotte's hand shattered. The candles burst into flames. The girls screamed, huddling together as the room began to spin, walls folding inward like breathing lungs. From every crack, black arms reached out, clawing, pulling at them. Charlotte shouted through the chaos, "Run toward the light, the window!" Nancy smashed the glass and climbed through. One by one, the children escaped into the rain, all except Charlotte. She turned back. Janice was standing there, her small hand gripping the doll's neck. "You can't take them," Janice whispered. "She chose me." Charlotte stepped forward, trembling. "Then I'll save you instead." But the floor split open between them, and from the darkness below, hundreds of porcelain arms reached up, dragging Janice down into the pit. Her scream echoed like a siren. Then silence. Charlotte fell to her knees, sobbing, clutching the doll that had been left behind. It was cracked, motionless. For the first time, it looked truly lifeless. The next morning, the police arrived. They found the girls outside the mansion, shivering under the trees. But inside the house, nothing. No Sister Charlotte, no Janice, no sign of the doll, only the sound of faint knocking behind the walls. 3 times. Knock, knock, knock. And then a small voice, whispering from within the wood, "You'll never get rid of me." It's been 12 years since the Mullins farmhouse burned to the ground. No one dares to go near the property. Locals call it the House of Shadows. The police files say it was an accident, but everyone in the town knows the truth. Something inside that house never died. One rainy afternoon, a married couple from the city, Henry and Margaret Johnson, arrive in town. They're antique collectors, always looking for rare treasures, relics of history. When they hear about the burnt remains of the Mullins estate, curiosity gets the best of them. They say the place is haunted. The old shopkeeper warns. Nothing good ever comes from that house. Henry just smiles. Ghosts make the story worth selling. The next day, they find what's left of the Mullins property, a skeleton of wood and ashes. But as they dig through the debris, Margaret notices something buried beneath the floorboards. A small chest, sealed with iron nails. She wipes the dust away and opens it. Inside lies a porcelain doll. Its face cracked, dress covered in soot, yet its eyes still gleam, untouched by time. Margaret gasps. She's beautiful. Henry lifts it up, studying it under the sunlight. "A piece of history," he says. "We'll restore her." Thunder rumbles. But as they turn to leave, Margaret hears something faint, a soft, childlike giggle echoing from the trees. She freezes. "Did you hear that?" Henry chuckles. "Just the wind, dear." But the wind doesn't giggle. That night, back at their antique shop, Henry carefully places the doll on display. The clock strikes midnight. Outside, the rain pours hard against the windows. Margaret sits by the counter sipping tea, staring at the doll. There's something about its eyes, something too alive. She gets up, walks closer and whispers, "You poor thing, what have you seen?" The lights flicker. Behind her, every other doll in the shop turns its head toward Annabelle. Margaret doesn't notice, but the camera would. Soft creak. One of the shelves tilts slightly. She leans down, straightening a fallen teacup. When she looks back up, The Annabelle doll is facing the other direction, its head turned away. Margaret frowns. "Henry, did you move her?" No response. She walks toward the hallway. "Henry?" From the workroom comes a faint scratching sound, like nails dragging across wood. She opens the door slowly. The doll is now inside the room, sitting on the table. The same one where Henry was cleaning tools moments ago. But Henry is nowhere in sight. "Henry." She steps closer. The lights flicker again, and she sees it. On the wall, written in what looks like dust and soot. She is home. A drop of something thick lands on her shoulder. She looks up. Henry is hanging upside down from the ceiling beam, throat slit open. She screams. The door slams shut behind her. The windows burst inward. And in the reflection of a shattered glass frame, Margaret sees a little girl, B. Mullins, standing beside the Annabelle doll. "Thank you," the girl whispers. She needed a new home. The glass explodes, cutting Margaret's face. She falls to the ground, bleeding, gasping. As the doll slowly turns its cracked face toward her, its eyes blink once. Forever. Electric hum. The scene fades to black. The next morning, the shop stands quiet. Police officers cordon the area. Henry and Margaret Johnson, found dead, both faces twisted in terror. But the doll, missing. Only a single piece of paper remains on the counter, burned at the edges. Written in a child's handwriting, "Play with me." Ominous lullaby begins, "You are my sunshine," playing on a broken music box. From that day forward, stories begin to spread again. A doll, appearing and disappearing across states. Every collector who owns it dies mysteriously. Every photo taken of it blurs the moment it's printed. And every night, somewhere in the world, a child's giggle echoes through the dark, followed by a single whisper, "Annabelle." 12 years after the Mullins tragedy, deep beneath a monastery in Rome, a single candle burns. Sister Charlotte kneels before it, older now, scarred, but alive. The world thinks she died in the fire, but she lived, haunted by one name, Annabelle. Before her lies a Vatican dossier, dozens of deaths, all with the same cursed doll somewhere in the background. A priest stands beside her. "You've seen this evil before, haven't you?" Charlotte nods slowly. "It doesn't die, it only waits." He slides her a file. "The doll's last sighting, Connecticut. A couple found dead in their shop." Charlotte's eyes harden. "Then I go there." Transition sound, airplane engines fade into rain against glass. Charlotte steps into the old Johnson Antiques shop. Every inch of the place smells like dust and death. A police line flutters in the wind. She crosses it without hesitation. Her flashlight sweeps across shattered glass, overturned shelves, and faint red words on the wall. "Welcome back, sister." Charlotte grips her rosary tight. She remembers me. A soft giggle echoes in the dark, a child's laugh that turns into something lower. She follows it into the back room. There, on a wooden chair under a single flickering bulb, sits the Annabelle doll. Its cracked face reflects the light like bone. Charlotte lifts her cross. "In the name of the Lord, I cast you out." The bulb bursts. Darkness swallows the room. From the shadows, dozens of faint faces appear. The souls taken by the doll, whispering her name over and over. "Annabelle, Annabelle, Annabelle." Charlotte's voice shakes but doesn't stop. "By his power, return to the pit." The doll twitches, its head turning by itself. A child's voice answers, "You couldn't save her." Charlotte freezes. "Janice!" From behind the doll, Janice steps forward. Her skin pale, eyes black as ash, lips torn at the corners of her mouth. "You left me in that house," she says, voice layered with another, deeper, older, inhuman. "She's inside me now." Charlotte sobs softly. "Then let me save you." Janice tilts her head, bones snapping. "Save yourself." The floor cracks. Black smoke floods the room, swirling like a living storm. Charlotte grips her rosary tighter, shouting her last prayer, "Take me instead." The demon's whisper circles her like wind. Agreed. A blinding flash, then silence. Morning. Police re-enter the shop. The scene is eerily calm. Charlotte is gone. Janice is gone. But on the floor, sitting neatly in the chair, is the Annabelle doll, now perfectly restored, its porcelain face spotless. On the glass case beside it, someone has written in the fog, "Thank you, sister." The world moved on. The antique shop was sold. The doll, sealed in glass, was quietly transferred to a church vault under Vatican supervision. They called it Contained. But evil doesn't die. It waits. Months later, deep within the church's underground chamber, a guard hears something. A soft knocking sound from the case. Then a whisper. "Charlotte." The light above flickers once, then twice, and the glass case cracks from the inside. The guard steps closer, terrified. "Who's there?" No answer, only the faint hum of a lullaby. "You are my sunshine, my only sunshine." The bulb explodes. When the light returns, the doll is gone. Scene shift, storm outside, thunder roaring over a countryside convent. In a candlelit room, Sister Charlotte wakes up gasping for breath. Her eyes dart around. She's no longer in Rome. She's back in the Mullins house. The walls creak. The air is thick with smoke and whispers, and on the floor beside her bed sits Annabelle. Charlotte's rosary lies broken in her hand. Her voice trembles. "It's not real. This isn't real." But a familiar voice answers, "It's where it all began, and where it must end." It's Janice, still young, still wearing the same tattered dress, but her eyes are hollow, an empty reflection of the girl who once was. "You gave her a body," Janice says softly. "Now she wants your soul." Charlotte stands, gripping her Bible, whispering the rite of exorcism. The room shakes violently. Pictures fall. A scream, 1,000 screams, echoes from every wall. The doll's eyes glow, and black smoke bursts outward, forming a tall shadow that fills the entire room. Its voice rumbles like thunder. "Your faith made me. Your prayers called me." Charlotte cries out, "Then let my faith end you." She begins the final prayer, louder, faster, shouting over the storm. The shadow roars in pain, the walls cracking, flames igniting from the cross itself. Her hands burn, her skin splitting, but she doesn't stop. "In the name of Christ, I command you back to the pit," the shadow screams. Janice's body convulses, collapsing to the floor. The doll begins to melt, porcelain turning to ash, but the demon's voice whispers one last time, "You said, take me instead." Charlotte gasps as the black smoke surges toward her. She holds up her cross, and everything goes white. Silence, then faint chanting. Days later, priests find the remains of the convent chapel, half burned, the walls scorched. Among the ruins, they find the Annabelle doll, now completely blackened, and Sister Charlotte's rosary wrapped tightly around its neck. Father Benedict kneels beside it. He whispers, "She did it. She contained it." But as he starts to pray, a tear rolls down his cheek, because from within the charred doll, he swears he hears breathing, and a faint whisper, "Amen." The sound fades. The heartbeat slows. A final note of the lullaby plays softly. A month later, the doll is locked away deep in the Vatican vault. A sign above its case reads, "Warning, do not open." But at night, when the candles go out, a soft giggle echoes through the hall, and the glass fogs up from the inside. One word appears, written in the mist: forever. If you've come this far, you've walked beside darkness. Now it's time to leave a light behind. Subscribe before the shadows do. This is Ghosttery, where every story leaves a scar. Turn on notifications so you never miss the next haunting tale. Ghosttery, horror story, Annabelle, creepy stories, narration, haunted doll, true horror, scary tales, dark narration, cinematic horror, ghost stories, Annabelle creation, Ghosttery originals.